It's Ash from Dirt in My Shoes, and I'm coming at you live to answer your questions about Yellowstone. And this is the first live session I've ever done for answering questions. So I'm pretty excited about it. I chose Yellowstone because that's by far the park with the most questions that I get in my email inbox. So I thought we'd start there. It's big, it's complicated, everybody wants to go there. So I thought I'd help you out with that. So just to introduce myself a little bit, like I said, my name is Ash, and I run the website Dirt in My Shoes, which is all about hiking through the national parks. I emphasize hiking because that's what I like to do, and that's what I'm passionate about, and that's what I know the most about. So if you'll notice, like a lot of my can't miss lists and itineraries, stuff like that, have a pretty heavy emphasis on hiking. So that's why. But you can still find a lot of good information there if you don't like to hike. I know a lot of people don't or can't, so I'm happy to help however I can, even if you don't like to hike. So, but anyway, I'm a former park ranger, and I worked in Utah and Wyoming and Alaska. So pretty excited to be coming at you and answering questions about Yellowstone, because that happens to be a family favorite. So I know a lot about it. We go there a lot. But anyway, I loved being a park ranger, and I feel like running Dirt in My Shoes actually is kind of like being a park ranger again, because I get to answer all the questions and get to know you through your love of the national parks, which was fun. A fun part of the park ranger job. But it's also nice that I can catch you before you go to the park and help answer some questions that will point you in the right direction before you actually head there. Whereas when I was a park ranger, I'd answer questions and be like, oh, you know, if you would have planned this a little in advance, you could have seen more or done more, you know, and I sometimes felt bad for people for showing up without knowing much. So I like to be able to catch you before you go. That helps me feel better about what I'm doing. So anyway, but I'm gonna jump into the questions. You guys are awesome. I asked for you to submit questions to my email inbox, actually, which made it a lot easier for me to go through them and kind of categorize them and see what you guys wanted to know more about. So, but I have easily over 100 questions here to answer. So I'm going to just try to like cruise through these as good as I can, but I'm a pretty detailed person, and hey Brian, I'm a pretty detailed person, and I like to be wordy in my responses just because I feel like I have to cover all the bases. So anyway, we're going to answer a lot of questions, but if you have any questions during the live, just leave a comment, and hopefully I'll see it and be able to answer that on the spot. If not, then I will go back through the comments after the live session is over, and I'll go through and make sure those get answered for you. So I'm going to start with my favorite question. Oh, hold on. I'm going to start with wildlife questions, and then I'm going to move, just so you know, wildlife, and then I'm going to move to itinerary questions, like logistic questions, and then I'll do lodging and camping. And then at the end, I'm going to cover like the activities like hiking and fishing and stuff like that. So if your question's in there somewhere, that just kind of gives you an idea of when I'm going to be answering those. So I'm going to start with my favorite question. I thought this question was like really relatable and super I get this question a lot and I love it. So this is from Shannon. She says, I can't believe you posted this opportunity specifically about Yellowstone, as my husband and I are headed there the week before Memorial Day, which is a great time to be there. My husband has not missed an opportunity to discuss bear sightings, bear spray, you have to make a lot of noise, they keep bankers hours, etc. anytime we discuss our upcoming trip. I'm now frightened half out of my wits and not looking forward to our hikes. Should I be more concerned or cautious in Yellowstone than other parks we visited, such as Rocky Mountain, Yosemite, Zion, Bryce, and Shenandoah. Thanks. Okay. So I get the bear question a lot, you guys, and I think it's good to have a healthy fear of bears because they're wild, they can be unpredictable, and you've probably seen stories in Yellowstone especially of bear attacks or things like that. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. So I would say the number one difference between bear safety in Yellowstone versus like Yosemite or Rocky Mountain is that Yellowstone has grizzlies, which is going to make a difference. Grizzlies are a little bit more, well, they're bigger and they're a little bit more aggressive, not as playful, I guess you could say, as black bears. So it is going to make a difference, but I would just say, I was thinking about this because it's really easy to get in your own head when it comes to bear safety. And it's totally normal to be worried about encountering a bear while you're on the trail or in a campground. That's totally normal. So just acknowledge that it's okay to be afraid of it. But I think if you get inside your head and start thinking about the things that you've seen on TV or the stories that you've heard or things like that, then you're gonna freak yourself out. So for example, I went camping with some friends. We were going to do a long hike, and we stayed at this campground at the trailhead getting ready to go for this long hike. And one of my friends kept bringing up the fact that, like, this campground has the most bears of any campground in Wyoming or something like that, which how would you even know that? I don't know. But anyway, he kept saying that, and I have a healthy fear of bears. I'm not really scared of bears, but he kept bringing it up. Well, I ended up sleeping in my car that night. I got in my head so bad, like every twig, every rustle of leaves, anything. Like I was convinced a bear was going to come jump out and eat me. So, so it happens. It happens to everyone. It happens to people who are around them a lot. It happens to people who, you know, have training in it. So I would just say, I think that education on it is key. So most bears are not going to attack you. Like if a bear is going to attack you, it's pretty sick in the head, or you set off its like predatory senses by running or like spooking it. So that's why they say like make noise, make sure the bear knows you're coming. I do carry bear spray. I always carry bear spray. It just helps me feel better. I've never had to use it. I've never even had to take the trigger off of it because bears usually will just give you your space if you don't sneak up on them. So I would say Yellowstone has a really good page on their website about bear safety, and I think they even have like a video showing you how to use bear spray. So I would definitely start there and just make sure that you learn what to do so that you can feel more comfortable. But don't let it get in the way of your vacation. You know, it's not gonna be dangerous for you to be out hiking and stuff. And people see bears, and the bears, you know, 9.9 times out of 10, give you your space, and there's no other problem. So don't let it ruin your trip. Okay, next question. This is from Joy. What's the best time and place to see bison and other wildlife? So really, Yellowstone is cool for that because it's really easy to see wildlife, and you'll see them right along the road. So, but I would say the two main spots that you've probably heard of for wildlife viewing is Hayden Valley, which is kind of over by Canyon, and then you've got Lamar Valley, which is up by Tower Roosevelt. And Lamar Valley, like, will blow your mind. I've never seen so many animals in one place in Lamar Valley. But I'd say get there early or get there late. You know, dawn or dusk is going to be the greatest chance to see that. If you want to see bison, they're all over Hayden Valley. So that's, you know, a good place to go. That's kind of over by Mud Volcano area. You'll see bison there a lot. Also, like the road between West and Madison often has bison or elk. So that's a good place to go to. Next question, Becky, tips for seeing wildlife. I kind of already covered that, but just get out there early. Hi, Nancy. Yes, as long as you can outrun someone in our group. Actually, don't run. That's like the worst possible thing you could do. Okay. Clarissa, I want to see lots of wildlife. Where are the most likely places to see wildlife? So write down Hayden Valley and Lamar Valley. Lamar Valley, if you can get up there, like I said, it'll just blow your mind. And we've seen wolves and grizzlies in the same spot in Lamar Valley, which is crazy. Okay. I love this question. Sarah, thank you. It says, is it really necessary to carry things like bear bells and bear spray in July? No. But like I said before, I always carry bear spray. It's just, for me, it just makes me feel safe. It makes me feel like I can handle something if it were to come. Bear bells actually, I'd say, bear bells are not that useful at any time of the year. It doesn't even matter. The human voice is more effective than bear bells. So if you're by yourself hiking and you want to be making noise and stuff, then bear bells are fine. But I'd say if you're with a group, just make sure that you're making noise with your voice, because the voice is going to be what's going to give the bear enough time and space to get out of the way. So try not to freak out about it too much, but I would carry bear spray. Okay, Tammy, where's the best place to buy bear spray? You can buy it in the gift shops. They have it up there in the gift shops. And then Yellowstone is actually one of the only parks that I know of that will rent it out, which is interesting and convenient. If you're going to be there for more than like 4 or 5 days, you should just buy some. It's like the same price or less. But if you're just going to be there for a couple days, you can rent it at Canyon Village. They have like a little kiosk out front of the visitor center where they do bear spray rentals. So definitely that's a good option. Okay. Heidi says, what should I do if I encounter wildlife on a hiking trail? The biggest thing is to stay calm, and regardless of the type of wildlife, because even like an elk or something, I mean, elk are huge, so you don't want to be getting too close to those either. I think sometimes, like, there's been times when I've come around a corner and there's like something right there that I didn't have time, or like I didn't have a chance to keep my distance. But usually if you stay calm, don't make any sudden movements, don't run, never run, never run. And I'll usually like continue facing the wildlife and just back up. Okay, don't turn your back on them, but just like back up slowly. Sometimes I'll talk softly like, hey, Mr. Elk, you know, I'm not causing you any trouble. I'm just gonna back up. It's okay. You can feel like a fool. It's not a big deal. The most important thing is being safe. So, yeah, if you see them on the trail, just give them their space. If you back up and give them space most of the time, it's not going to be any more than that, and then you can get some cool pictures. So, okay. Sue asks, I have read some warnings about driving in the park after dark due to wildlife in the road. Is this exaggerated or something to consider? Definitely something to consider. It's very likely there are going to be some type of wildlife in the road. So in Grand Teton, actually, they lower their speed limit at night. So you'll notice they have like a daytime speed limit, and then they have a nighttime speed limit. So they don't do that in Yellowstone, but it's something to consider doing if you don't want to hit anything. But just stay alert. If there's nobody coming, keep your brights on so you can see the sides of the road too if you need to. But the slower you drive, the more time you'll have to react if there is something there. Okay, okay, this question is from Brian. I'm going to Yellowstone in early June to specifically photograph wildlife. I have previously photographed both grizzlies and wolves at Lamar Valley and Hayden Valley. Are there any other spots comparable to either of those places that you would recommend? Are there any particular places in either of those valleys that are best for getting wildlife shots? Good question. So as far as like spots comparable or better than Lamar Valley, no. No, I've never been anywhere where there's been so much wildlife in one spot. So I'd say, you know, if you're in Lamar Valley and hoping to get wildlife shots, you're at the right place. I mean, it's different every time we go. So I've been to Lamar Valley a ton of times, and you'll see different things. Like sometimes we see bighorn sheep. We almost always see pronghorn, bison, grizzly, wolf. Trying to think what else. Anyway, you'll see a lot of things, so it just, you know, you never know what's coming. But the one thing I will say is if you've been there during the summer, or, you know, if you're kind of always going at the same time of year, try Lamar Valley in the winter. If you want to get good wolf shots, like Lamar Valley is really well known for wolves in the winter, so I would do that. Or go earlier, because like March and April is kind of prime time for the grizzlies to be coming out and being more visible. So I would say kind of switch it up. If you're always going in the summer, like you're gonna kind of encounter the same thing every time. But I would say if you're there like in the fringes of spring or like fall, and then always in winter in Lamar Valley for wolves. So okay, so that's the questions I got about wildlife. If you think of anything, let me know. I'm going to move on to itinerary and logistic questions. This was like, you know, how many days should I spend, stuff like that. So here, okay, I got this question a lot. So this is from Rosemary. I got this question from Joanna, Anne, and Ron, and Mark. Yes. So thank you guys. Thanks for leaving your questions. Basically, the question says, what is the best time of year to visit Yellowstone? A lot of you had concerns about the crowding and all the people that are there. So I would say if you can avoid summer, then do. If you can't, then that's okay. We can make it work. That's why I wrote the itineraries, so that you could handle Yellowstone during the summer without feeling like super overcrowded. But it is crazy in the summer. I'm rarely there in the summer anymore. I do go sometimes just because I want to get like a feel for it, but if I'm there to like enjoy myself, I don't usually go during the summer anymore. But I would say, okay, so the best time in my favorite times to be there is like May, from like mid-May to the end of May, but excluding like Memorial Day weekend. Yeah, Nancy says she went in September. That's my other favorite time to be there, is like after Labor Day and throughout September. So if you can go during those times, like everything will still be open. The weather will be mostly okay. We've hit some pretty crazy weather in like September. I swear it snows on us every time we go in September. But like if you get later, like October, November, then things start to close down, and then like a lot of the roads and stuff don't start opening till like May 10th-ish in the spring. So if you go before that, I mean, the other thing is try a visit in the winter. They have like snow coaches and snowmobile tours that you can do, and they keep the Old Faithful Snow Lodge open, so you can actually take a snowmobile or snow coach down to Old Faithful and stay in the lodge, even though the roads aren't open. And then the North Road is always open. So that's another thing to think about if you've been there. Well, if you've never been, then I probably wouldn't start with a winter trip, but if you have been before and you're looking for some variety, I'd try the winter. Okay. This is Connie. What is the best travel route from Yellowstone to Grand Teton? We're staying in Ashton, Idaho. So I don't know. I do get this question sometimes of people staying kind of further out, like the Island Park area, or I don't know, like Victor, Driggs, down by the Tetons, stuff like that. So if you're going to do that, just first of all, like get a really, really, really early start, because if you're not in the park by 7:30, you're going to get caught in traffic. I guarantee it. So try to come as early as you can. But I'd say if you're going to Yellowstone, then a lot of people drive up I-15 through Island Park and then cut over to West Yellowstone. That's probably the easiest way if you're staying on that side. And then the Tetons, you can go up and over the Teton Pass from Victor. So, oh, there is one road. There's a road from Ashton that goes into the John D. Rockefeller Memorial, which is in between Yellowstone and Grand Teton. It's a dirt road and it takes a long time, so I wouldn't recommend that. Okay. Judy, how many days would you allot to Yellowstone if you had 10 days and wanted to see the Tetons, Glacier, and Yellowstone? That's a good question. A lot of people do all three during the same trip. So I would recommend, okay, I'm super biased because I love the Tetons, so it's like hard for me to tell you not to spend all your time there. But I do 3 or 4 days in Yellowstone, and I do 3 or 4 in Glacier, and then I do 2 or 3 in the Tetons. So just kind of depending on how you want to split it up or what type of things you want to do. You can see Yellowstone pretty good in 3 days. 4 days is better. So I would probably give 4 days to Yellowstone and maybe like 3 to Glacier. Yeah. 4, 3, and 3, or 4, 4, and 2. That's probably what I'd do. I probably wouldn't cut out Yellowstone down to 3 days. I'd probably keep it at 4. Okay. Recommended itinerary for visits to Yellowstone and Grand Teton. That's a question from Mark. Mark, if you go to the website dirtinmyshoes.com, and there's a button right there on the homepage that says get your itinerary, and you can select Yellowstone and Grand Teton. I have itineraries up there for you instead of going through it all right now. And the reason that I do the itineraries is because I tend to get a lot of the same questions like that. And so it was just like a way for me to put all my suggestions in one place, and you'll love them. They help people navigate through Yellowstone really well without getting stuck in crowds or traffic. So, okay, Tammy, what is the best route to take if entering in Gardner mid-afternoon but staying in West Yellowstone for 2 nights? Okay, if you're coming in from the north but then staying in the west, I'd come in I need to show you a map or something. I'd come in through Gardner, and then I'd go over to Tower and down to Canyon, and then over to West for a half day. And then while you're in West, you could do like Norris, and then you go down to Old Faithful and everything down in there. I would do that while you're staying in West, but I'd do the north part while you're up. So hopefully that helps and makes sense. Okay. Sally, what kind of crowds should we expect in late May and early June? The crowding in late May is pretty good. We've been to the park like right after Memorial Day weekend, like that, even that Monday of Memorial Day, a lot of people clear out. And then once you get into June, it starts to get busier. So I kind of like that week right there. Has always been a good time for us to be there. But early June typically not terrible. It's like once the kids start getting out of school and stuff, you'll notice it picking up. So yeah, if you can go like between Memorial Day and June, I think it's the perfect time. Okay. Will you just come with us, please? Nancy says. Yeah, I totally want to. Actually, I've been wanting to do a meetup type of thing where I want to reserve a group campground and then just like let people come, which I think would be really fun, and then we can like go adventure together. So that actually is in the works. If you want to come, I haven't decided which parks or when, but it's something that I really want to do. So thank you. You guys are so nice. Okay. Sally asks, you don't mention Thoroughfare Valley or Cascade Corner in your itinerary for Yellowstone. Are these areas easily accessible, and are there trails there? Yes, there are trails, and for the most part, they're not too hard to access. The reason I don't put things like this on the itinerary is really because I think that like the itineraries are more for a first-time visit, to help you see all the big stuff, you know. And so if you follow the itinerary, you're going to see all the main stuff, and then I really think you ought to go back after you've seen all the main stuff and like do trails like that, like Thoroughfare Valley or Cascade Corner. I think there's so many parts of Yellowstone that are well worth your time. It's just a matter of like what to see when you're there the first time versus when you go back later. So that's why I don't include them in the itineraries, just because you know, they're not accessible for most people, and most people don't go to Yellowstone necessarily to do that. They go to see Old Faithful. So, but if you have the time and you want to go for it. Yeah, there's some great spots in Yellowstone that aren't on the itineraries. So, okay, Lucy, if you could only do 2 things, what would you do? 2 things, oh my gosh. Well, okay, you can't go to Yellowstone without seeing Old Faithful. If you're a first-time visitor, then do like Old Faithful and like Artist Point and Canyon Village. Because those are kind of the big, you know, must-do things when you're there. But I would say like now when I go back, I like never go there anymore. We're usually up in the north where all the animals are, so yeah, that's a hard question, but I would say if you're a first-time visitor, I'd do Old Faithful and Canyon probably, or if you don't want to drive that much, maybe like Old Faithful and like the Grand Prismatic area. So hopefully that helps. Okay, Lee asks, we will be there May 19th for 4 days. How many trails and roads will be open? Most everything will be open. They do close things down sometimes for like wildlife safety and stuff in the spring, so there's a chance. Most of your roads will be open. The road that takes the longest to open is the road from Tower Fall to Canyon Village. It's known as Dunraven Pass. It's really high. It takes them longer to clear the snow. So that one, May 19th, that one probably won't be open. They try to get that one open around Memorial Day. But it could be if it's a low snow year. But yeah, other than that, pretty much everything should be open by then. Okay. This is from Kayla. Would you make any changes to the Yellowstone itinerary considering we are staying at Lake Lodge? So this is a question I get a lot, actually. People will email me and say, because the itineraries are based out of West Yellowstone, that's the entrance most people use, and it's really hard to get lodging in the park, so I didn't want to like assume that you were going to stay in the park just because it's really hard to do that. So, but I do get that question a lot, like, we're staying here, is it still going to work? Yes, it will still work. In most cases, you really won't even have to change much because the itineraries are so organized, like based on region of the park. And so no matter where you're staying, usually you can just like drive to that region and still follow the itinerary, if that makes sense. So for those of you that have itineraries, hopefully you understand more what I'm saying. And sorry for those of you that don't have any clue what I'm talking about. But if you do stay somewhere else, just like factor in the extra drive time in the morning. That's the biggest thing, is to try to still be on schedule in the morning hours, because those are going to be that's the biggest deal to like making the itinerary work and stuff, is being at the right place at the right time in the morning. So if you're staying in the lake and it's, you know, gonna add an extra half an hour to your drive time to get to the first place in the morning, then just make sure you factor that in and add it in. But otherwise, the itinerary should work fine for you, no matter where you're staying. So, okay. This is from Amy. We purchased your 4-day itinerary and are interested in stargazing. Can you recommend which day in your itinerary would be good to start later in the day and end later? Are there spots that are perfect to visit around dusk and then somewhere close to do stargazing? We are staying in West Yellowstone and would like to end our day in that direction. Okay, so I never recommend starting later in the day. I wouldn't do that. I'd still, if you want to break up your day, that's fine, but like, don't mess up your morning, kind of like what I just said. Start early in the day, and then if you need to take a break like midday, that's fine, because that's when all the people are out, so you can, you know, kind of relax then, and then go back out later. That would be what I would do. I wouldn't start later and end later. I'd break it up. I'd start early and then take a break and then end later. There's a lot of good places to stargaze. I can't think of like anywhere particular, just away from buildings. You could go like, I don't know, like Lower Geyser Basin if you're wanting to stay on the West Yellowstone side, like Lower Geyser Basin would be fine. A lot of people just do it from the campgrounds, so that, I mean, the stars are really good there. You could go to Norris, somewhere where there's not many lights. And then somewhere to visit around dusk. I mean, that's usually when we're out looking for wildlife. So if you're wanting to stay kind of nearby, I'd stay like, I don't know, that road between West and Madison's usually okay. But I would drive out to Hayden Valley if I was really wanting to have a good activity at dusk. Okay. Yeah, Carissa says, taking a break in the day works out great. Have lunch and take a nap. Yeah. And in my case, since I have 2 little boys, you know, that's usually nap time for them and me. So, do you have an itinerary for just the north portion of the park one day? That's what Lori says. No, I don't. But email me if you have questions about it. Okay. Debbie asks, what's the easiest airport to fly into for Yellowstone and Grand Teton? Easiest, I mean, a lot of the gateway towns have them, like small ones, so you can find one. There's one in West Yellowstone, Bozeman, Cody, Jackson Hole has one. The thing is those are usually more expensive to fly into, so if you're having to be budget conscious, I don't know that you'll be able to find anything within a reasonable budget in any of those. Idaho Falls has a small one that's a little bit further out that might be cheaper. My husband used to work at the Salt Lake City airport though, and a lot of people fly in to Salt Lake City and drive up to Yellowstone. So if you're looking for like a big major airport to fly into, I'd look at probably Salt Lake City. It's about 5 hours or so to West Yellowstone from Salt Lake, so it's not too bad. But look at my cool water bottle. It has my dirt in my shoes, but it has Yosemite, which I love. It's a cool water bottle. Okay. We have 2 weeks and we'll be driving from LA to Yellowstone. There are national parks along the way, like Grand Canyon, Bryce Canyon, Zion, Grand Teton. With limited time, are there any you recommend to visit or skip to give their own dedicated visit while driving to Yellowstone? That's from Marlo. Hi, Marlo. Yes. If you're on limited time, I would save Grand Canyon, Zion, and Bryce for its own trip. Those are all really close together and really conveniently located for their own trip. So, but I would do Grand Teton with Yellowstone if you have time. Okay. How many hours to hike from the south rim to the north rim of the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone? Can we leave cars in the parking areas overnight? That's Dawn. It really depends on where you start and end. There's a lot of ways to access that trail. But if you're backpacking, yes, you can keep your car in the parking lot overnight. But if you're not backpacking, you can't like park your car and sleep in it in any of the parking lots. So, okay. Preferred amount of days needed to see the park from Nikki. I wouldn't do less than 4 if you can do it. So, we have a half day in Yellowstone, leaving from the north to south. What are 2 things not to miss? That's from Tom. If you're going north to south with a half day, I'd probably stick around the Old Faithful area. I do like Old Faithful and like Grand Prismatic, probably. Diana, do you have a favorite entrance into the park? I tend to favor West Yellowstone just because it's convenient and it has a lot of things, and you literally, like, you drive out of West Yellowstone and you're in the park. So, you know, the entrance gate is like right in town basically. So, that's nice. Like, Cody is a fun entrance and stuff, but you have to drive forever to get to anything from Cody, so I don't typically recommend that. Gardner also, like, you drive in, but then Gardner in the north part of the park, it's a little further away from all the main stuff. So I like West Yellowstone. It's a good central location. Okay. If I'm staying at towns outside the park like Gardner, West Yellowstone, and Cody, what would be a good itinerary near each of those entrances? If you're staying west, it's like good to do Old Faithful and Norris and stuff while you're in west. If you're in Gardner, then that's when I usually hit like Mammoth and Lamar if I'm up there. And if you're in Cody, then that's when I do like Canyon Village and Lake Village. stuff like that. So, okay, let's see. This is the last one for this type of question. We'll be driving to Yellowstone just for the day from Park City, Utah. What's the best loop? And can we stop at Grand Teton? Yeah, I drive I-15 up to West Yellowstone and then go down by Old Faithful and go out the south entrance and hit Grand Teton and then go back to Utah. So, okay. That's all those ones. Now let's get... I have so many questions, you guys. I'm going to try not to take too much time of your Saturday, but I'll go till I get through them, I guess. Okay. This is the lodging and camping section of questions, so here we go. Kanishk says, how early to reserve a campground? Yellowstone reservations are crazy, you guys. Okay, so I was looking the other day. They're opening it, they haven't set a date yet, but usually it's like the beginning of May. They're opening reservations for camping and lodging for 2020. So yes, that's like, what, if you're going in August of 2020, that's like 15 months in advance you have to make a reservation, which is just insane. So yeah, it's going to be hard to get reservations for 2019. There might still be something available if you call and try to get people's cancellations, just because like it's so far in advance that you have to make a reservation, then there usually are cancellations if you can be lucky enough to snag those. Sometimes I'll like call every day when it's getting closer to my trip, and I'll call every day until I can find something, which works sometimes, but it's really hard and it's really crazy. So that's why I say like my itineraries and stuff are all based out of West Yellowstone, just because it's kind of highly unlikely that you're going to be staying in the park. And if you're lucky, then good for you. That's awesome. So, okay. I got this question a lot. I want to know which campground you prefer. Oh, and this one had a different... What about dogs in the park and camping with them? Are they allowed? I'll answer the dog question right now. Dogs are allowed in the campgrounds. They're allowed, like, parking areas, roads, and campgrounds. They have to be leashed. Trails, like any trails, boardwalks, anything like that, you can't bring your dog. So Yellowstone is actually not dog friendly at all. There's not even like any kennels or anything nearby really. So if you can leave your dog somewhere that you trust, I would, just because there's really nowhere you can take them except like in the campgrounds. So that's something to consider. And I know it's hard to leave your pet home sometimes, you know, but like I said, there's not really that many good options for Yellowstone. Okay, but campground, best camping location. I got that from Debbie, Becky, JC, best campground, Judy, Richard. Yeah, lots of campground. Okay, the best campground in Yellowstone, I think, is the one you can get a reservation for. So if you see something available, snatch it, because it doesn't happen very often. But so if you look at a map of Yellowstone, I'm just gonna like pretend this is a map. So you got West Yellowstone over here, and then it goes like Madison, Norris, Canyon, Lake is down here, and then out to Cody. There's like that road down the middle. That's the most central location to be in the park. So if you can get camping or lodging along that line, then you'll typically do less driving and you'll be closer to things. If you're staying in a hotel or something though, like Old Faithful and Canyon are kind of the main ones. If you go all the way down to Grant, you'll just be driving a lot, especially if you want to go up north. And then if you go all the way up to Mammoth, you'll be driving a lot if you want to go down south. So Roosevelt isn't bad for lodging. It's in an okay location. You just have that extra drive over Dunraven Pass to get like to the lower stuff. So, which lodging locations are better? Just covered that. And what number of nights should be planned for a good visit? I always say 4 full sightseeing days. So if you get there like the night before, give yourself 4 days and then stay another night and leave the next day if you can. If my wife and I wanted to take a trip to Yellowstone and stay in one of the lodges, what time of year should we plan to come, and how soon before the stay do we have to book a reservation? So that's from Richard. Lodging and camping are that, you know, May 1st at 8 a.m. for the following year. So you'll do it this year for next year. Okay, just covered that one. How to get reservations. If camping in a camper van, how is your space reserved when you go out in the van for the day? So you'll have a paper stub on your site, but then I would always leave something. I recommend leaving something. Usually we'll leave like a tablecloth on the table, or like some camp chairs or something, just so that people know that you're coming back. Because sometimes people take papers, the reservation papers, off the stub and put their own on there, which causes problems. So, but if you leave stuff, usually they'll know to, you know, they'll leave it alone more. So that's what I'd recommend. Do you know of any good dispersed campsites outside of the park? That's from Lucy. Yeah, there's some Forest Service stuff like on the west side that I know of that we've seen before, like up by Hebgen Lake, and yeah, there's some Forest Service land up there. I would just check like a website like freecampsites.net or Campendium. We use Campendium a lot. So, and we're full-time RVers, so we're camping all the time trying to find stuff. So yeah, those are kind of the two I use. Okay, where is good to eat inside the park? That's from Lucy. Nowhere. Just kidding. Okay, the food is kind of mediocre in Yellowstone, in my opinion. I think if you're gonna eat in the park, you know, like the Old Faithful Inn or like Lake Hotel are kind of the big fancy dining rooms that everybody wants to eat at. And it's, in my opinion, like if you're eating at a nice dining room like that, usually it's for the experience and not so much the food. But I would say that's like really true in Yellowstone. I don't know that we've really found a restaurant that we love there. But the gateway towns have some pretty good ones. So if you're going to spend money on a big meal and actually want good food. Yeah, Carissa says the ice cream is good. It is good. It is good. And, you know, I've never eaten there and been like, yummy, this is delicious, but the ice cream is good. The lines are really long for the ice cream, so that tells you something. Okay, this is Peggy. I went to Yellowstone and Grand Teton last summer. The trip was just fantastic thanks to your itineraries. Camping at Canyon was really great. Tell people that you need mosquito repellent. So there we go, passing on from Peggy. Bring mosquito repellent. Edward, what is the longest RV length for the park? So roads wise, you're okay with pretty much any length. There's like huge buses that drive through Yellowstone. Parking is going to be an issue though if you're driving something large, for sure. For sure. Like I would get up, if I was driving an RV through Yellowstone, I would get up at like 5 in the morning. I'm not kidding. So, okay, campgrounds though, you're looking at about 40 feet or less, and it's hard to get something big enough first. It's a little misleading on the camping website because it says like max length is like 35 combined, which I found not to be true, but if you're nervous about it, just try to get as big as you can go. But usually 35 feet, a 35-foot driveway has space for your truck to park next to your trailer if you're that big. So, yeah. Judy, is there a good place to rent camper vans in the area? I don't know. I don't have any experience with that, but I'd look at like a website like Outdoorsy or just Google it. Sorry. Lucy, I said I missed the start. Will you be posting the full video after? Yes. Yeah, I'll leave this up on my Facebook page. Okay, and we're to the last section. What time are we looking at? Woo, I'm doing good. 15 more minutes. Okay. This is about like the activities, hiking, fishing, stuff like that in the park. Keep posting any questions if you have them. Okay. So, Patricia asks, what's the easiest hiking trail to see something beautiful? I don't know, do you want a real hike or do you want just like a walk along the boardwalk? I would say, okay, if you're looking for like a real hike that's easy, I really like the new Grand Prismatic Overlook hike that they made a few summers ago. They finished it. That one's really good, and it is really easy. It's like flat for a really long time, and then you go like 100 feet up the hill to get to the viewpoint. So that's a good one. I like that one. What do you like to snack on while hiking? From Patricia. Chocolate. Chocolate keeps my day going. Anything chocolate. No, we do like jerky or applesauce. I try to keep it somewhat healthy for my kids, and something with like applesauce is like a lot of good sugar to keep you going, and then like you need something that's like a protein or something to make it last longer. But we'll do like jerky. I do like peanut M&Ms. If you look online and search for energy bites, I make like they're like little balls of like oatmeal and chocolate and honey and like chia seeds and stuff like that. I really like those. Those are a good option. Yeah, stuff like that. I try to typically stay away from processed if I can, but you know, sometimes it's just like for the ease of hiking with my children, we just eat whatever we have. So Mark, are there any guided tours that offer limited availability and need to be booked in advance? I will be honest, guided tours are not my specialty. Mostly, I mean, that's why I hike, because that's my preferred way of seeing the park. So we do them sometimes, not a whole lot though. I would say, like, I have heard that like the horseback riding and chuck wagon dinner in Roosevelt fills, but they've got all sorts, I mean, they've got like a million tours you can take in Yellowstone. So that's like, if there's something that sticks out to you, then book it, I would say, because you don't want to miss out just because you're waiting, you know. I would do it if it sounds good to you, but as far as like them actually booking out, I'm not sure. I'm sorry, I'm not too much help with that. Okay, Corinne says, I'm always interested to know where pets are allowed. After all, they are family and go on family road trips. Okay, so we covered that. They're not really allowed anywhere, just like along the road and then the parking areas and then the campgrounds. So I'm going to write a post. As we've been traveling, I've been noticing which parks are more dog friendly than others, and so I do want to write a post of like dog friendly national parks, but I will tell you Yellowstone is not one of them. So like I said, I think East Coast parks typically are more dog friendly than West parks. So you'll get to the West and you'll notice a lot of the parks out here are not a good place to have your dog with you. So, and I'm sorry, I do know they're family, but Carissa says the guided tours, photo tours are amazing. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Guided photo tours. I have seen tours. They do tours up in Lamar Valley, like the wildlife tours. And they take you, and they'll usually have like the spotting scopes for you and stuff. And those people are really good at finding wildlife. So we've always like, if we're by ourselves, we'll just like try to kind of follow those tours, because I swear they have like x-ray vision. They can like see through the mountain to find a wolf. It's crazy. So yeah, I'm sure there are some really good ones. Okay. Kayla says, are there any specific rafting companies you recommend for the Tetons? And I left this one in, even though it's not about the Tetons necessarily, because I do get this question a lot. Like, people say, we're going to Tetons and Yellowstone. Where should we go rafting? And I do think that rafting in the Tetons is better. So if you're thinking about which park to do it in, I'd do it in the Tetons. And the whitewater stretches are amazing. They're not, you actually don't see the mountains, the Teton Mountains from the whitewater stretch, but it's really, really good. And then they have scenic ones that go through Grand Teton. You just need to make sure you pick a tour company, like Solitude, I know, goes through Grand Teton, so you see the mountains like the whole time. But there are other scenic ones that don't go through the park, so just make sure you get one of those if that's what you want to do. Okay, Becky, what are the must-sees? Take a look at the can't miss list for Yellowstone. We do like 50 things in the park and then narrow it down to 10. So, you know, and I try to keep them pretty basic, so that they're activities that everybody can do. So, that's a good place to start. I posted a link to the Yellowstone Ultimate Guide in the video description, so you could click on that and it will take you to all the stuff I have for Yellowstone. Okay, Carissa, what's the one 10 to 15 mile hike you wouldn't want to miss out on? Okay, I would do like Heart Lake or Union Falls. Here's the thing. If I'm going to do a 10 to 15 mile hike and I'm in the area, I'm probably going to do it in the Tetons. So Yellowstone, it's beautiful, but you just like, you don't get like those big grand mountain views, you know, and so, which is what I like. So since you're asking me and I'm giving my opinion, I'd say save your 10 to 15 miles and go down to the Tetons. There are some good ones in Yellowstone, but they're just like in 10 to 15 miles in the Tetons, you can see like the most mind-blowing scenery that you've ever seen. So, and you can just like pick a canyon down there and they're all good. So that's me being biased towards the Tetons, but I would say like for 15 miles you could really see something cool in the Tetons. So okay, Brian, I ordered your glacier itinerary last year. Excellent itinerary. We're doing Yellowstone and Grand Teton in September with 3 days in Yellowstone. We're avid hikers. Any suggestions? Yeah, I got this question a few times of like longer hikes that are better. I would say beyond like what's on the itinerary, I would look into like Mount Washburn or Avalanche Peak is a good one. So I do some of those probably. Okay. Oh, I love this question. Pardon me. Becky says, are the touristy spots worth it or not? Yes. Okay, here's the thing. When I'm making lists or when I'm giving recommendations, like, I'm never going to tell you not to go to Old Faithful. You have to go to Old Faithful if you're going to Yellowstone. Like, there's certain stops where you go, and it's like, if you don't stop there, people are gonna be like, what? How could you go to Yellowstone and not do that? So, yeah, they're worth it. They're worth it. I've always thought that it's best to go to a national park at least twice. Like, once for the main touristy stuff, because there's a reason those spots are popular. I mean, it is really cool and really fun. But like, if we go once to do those and then we go back, and then you don't have to do them again because you've already seen them, and then that gives you the chance to like go somewhere that's more suited to the type of travel that you like and the activities that you like. Now when we go to Yellowstone, I've mentioned this a couple times, but like my favorite place to be is Lamar Valley. And so we'll just like go and we'll sit, we'll get out our binoculars. Like, we could spend a whole day up there just sitting in one spot and looking for wildlife. So, you know, that's more what like a visit to Yellowstone looks like for me now. But, yeah, I think you need to go to the touristy spots for sure. Oh, Natalie. Hi, Natalie. That's my sister-in-law. Hey, last time we were in the Tetons, there's smoke everywhere from all the forest fires. When's the best time to avoid fire season? Yeah, for Teton Yellowstone, I'd go like May, June, and like maybe the first half of July, usually. And then after that, it's risky. If you have to go later, just expect, you know, even if there's not a fire in the Tetons or in Yellowstone, the air can be pretty nasty from other places. So this last summer was terrible. We were up there and you could like not even see the mountains. So good question. Okay. Dave, I'm one of those folks that gets to a semi-secluded spot and lets the park come to them and takes lots of pictures. What's your best suggestions for those hidden locations? Yellowstone is unique because really, like, if you get on a trail and walk for 5 minutes, you're going to be by yourself mostly on most trails. So people typically spend their most time like in the parking lots or in the boardwalks around the geysers and stuff. So if you find a trail, just like go walk on it for a minute. You don't even have to go that far, and you can have some nice quiet peace and solitude. Okay. What would you say are the can't miss ranger programs? This is from Dave. So I typically like the ones about the wildlife. I think those ones are really interesting, especially because there is so much wildlife in Yellowstone. The evening programs are like always a hit. I love going to the campgrounds and watching the evening programs, and sometimes they'll have like fires and, you know, it's just like really fun. And then my other favorite ones are every once in a while during the summer they do like it's called Stars Over Yellowstone, and they do stargazing ones. So if you're there during those, definitely go to those. They're great. Oh, and then rangers, like, they lead hikes all the time too. So if you're not wanting to hike by yourself, like if you are nervous about the bears or something like that, like they do hikes to like Mystic Falls, and I know they do Storm Point, which is a really good one. And they'll do like Geyser Hill and stuff like that. So those are good ones too. Okay, Kristen, I think my next major trip will be to Yellowstone for a week. What would you recommend doing during that time to maximize our adventures there? We'd like to go in spring 2020 to bypass the crowds. Yeah, I'm going to point you to the itineraries for what to do there. I think that would be the most help to you. So if you go to dirtinmyshoes.com, click on get an itinerary, and then you can choose Yellowstone and pick one out. The only other thing I want to say about this is she says she wants to go in spring. Just don't go too early. So like if you go in April, you can't do the snow stuff and you can't do the summer stuff in April. So I wouldn't go any earlier than like the 10th or so of May if it were me. So otherwise you won't be able to see everything. Okay, Denise, we used your itinerary 2 years ago and are making another trip this summer because we loved it so much. We already hit the big spots and are wondering about the Boiling River. We'll be there July 8th. Okay. I do get a lot of questions about the Boiling River, and I'm going to write a post about it so that you can know what to expect. Yeah, I would do it. I would do it for sure. So it's closed seasonally because the water levels have to be right. For it to be safe, and then they close it hourly too. Like there's a ranger that comes and like locks up the parking area and stuff. And so what I would say is like most of the time it is completely crazy. So if you see any posts that say like this is a secret spot in Yellowstone you can't miss, it's not a secret. There are a million people there. So I would just say yes, it's super fun, but like I think during the summer they open the parking area at like 6 a.m. I would be there at 6 a.m. I did like an early morning before breakfast dip. Because otherwise you'll notice it's a crazy place. So yes, I would go, but I'd go early in the morning if you could. Okay, Isaac says, what's the best peak to climb? My favorite hikes to peaks in Yellowstone are Avalanche and Mount Washburn. So, oh, Kenya says, can you go to the campground programs if not staying in the campground? Yes. Yeah, they usually have a couple parking spaces by the amphitheater, but yeah, definitely. And Angie, bears. Angie, we covered that at the very beginning of the video, so when I post this on the Facebook page, you can go in and watch about the bears. So, okay, Dawn, what's the better short hike, Mystic Falls or Fairy Falls? I like Mystic Falls better. I think it's a more interesting trail. It's a little bit shorter, so it's nice, like if you're with kids and stuff. But you walk around Biscuit Basin, which is fun, and then you kind of go back in the forest, but then it opens out to be like right next to the river in this little canyon. So, I just think it's a more interesting trail. They're both good though. Fairy Falls is really cool, but I think like the trail is just not as exciting to get there. when you get there, it's cool. But yeah, if I like Mystic Falls. Okay. Mary, what is the #1 tourist attraction that visitors should see? Old Faithful. You can't go to Yellowstone without seeing Old Faithful. So, okay. Diana, suggested hike that may be a hidden gem. We always try to find something that's not typically suggested. I have a secret hike to a waterfall on the website that I think you'll like if you like to get away from the normal stuff. And it's really fun and pretty, and there's lots of animals back there. So, Patricia, best place to view Old Faithful? So, I mean, from the viewing platform is great. You can walk around the boardwalk, like starting to go on the Geyser Hill Trail. You can go around to the backside of Old Faithful, and there's usually a lot less people there. So, if you're hoping for a different view, you could try that. We want to trout fish in the park. Is there a special license to fish in the park or just a Wyoming license? Are there restrictions on where to fish? That's from John. Yeah. So actually, like, a Wyoming state license doesn't work in Yellowstone. You have to actually get a Yellowstone fishing license. And you can do that at, like, the visitor centers and backcountry offices and, like, a lot of the general stores. They'll do that. So, yeah, you need to do that. I will say I am a terrible fisherwoman, and my husband has, like, the worst luck in the world with catching fish. So we're not, like, real big into fishing. Not that we don't like it, but we're just terrible at it. So I don't know a lot about fishing in Yellowstone, but they have a huge section of it on the website. So yeah, just make sure you get the right license. Okay, that's another same question about fishing. Thanks, Al. Okay, I got this question a lot. What are the best places to visit with small kids? So that's from Nicole and Kayla and Tammy and Kendra and Heidi. Thanks for your questions. Clarissa, Alyssa, Julie. Yeah, okay. So I think a lot of concerns come up with, like, being in the geothermal area and having small kids, which is totally legit. I would just say, like, Yellowstone is unique because any of the areas you go, you have to walk usually, and so, like, if you have really young kids that don't hike very much, that's going to be a lot of walking for them, is just like seeing the main stuff. So I don't know that, like, if you have really young kids, I don't know you really need to go, like, above and beyond to find more hiking for them, just because they're already going to be moving a lot. If you have older kids, then I would say, yeah, we do. We really like Mystic Falls. You could try, like, Lone Star Geyser is a fun one. Morning Glory Pool is a fun one. The Grand Prismatic Overlook is good for little kids. That one doesn't have anything they can fall into, which is pretty much, yeah. It's right by the river. There's a few little spots, but that one's pretty safe. I got this question, like, how young is too young to take your kids there? So we've always taken our kids when they're really, really small, you know. I don't think that you need to wait just because you have small kids. You might not be able to, like, do as much as you're hoping with small kids, but as far as, like, the geyser areas and stuff, I mean, they need to kind of be able to follow directions, and, like, we always made our son hold our hand if we were walking somewhere like that, you know, and he was good about that. So I would just say, I don't think it's ever too early to take your kids to Yellowstone. You know, you might enjoy it more if they're a little older, but it's never too early to take them. So, okay. Yeah, best hikes with an 8, 10, and 12-year-old. Becky, yeah, I do they'd like Uncle Tom's, probably Lamar River, and I'd look at Mount Washburn, and, like, Lone Star Geyser, probably. There's a lot of good ones, though. You push them a little harder. Okay, oh yeah, what are some activities for the tween age group? That's from Jenny. I just always take people hiking. It's, like, good character building. It makes them push a little harder, push through their pain a little bit, and get a reward at the end. So, Okay, Judy, 5 to 7 mile trails. Yeah, kind of the same ones. If you're just going to the park like for a second time or first time, I'd look into like Mount Washburn, Avalanche Peak, Fairy Falls, Mystic Falls, Lone Star Geyser, Lamar River, all good ones. Okay, is there a way to do a hike with our Boy Scout troop with a ranger guide or something similar? We would love activities that would be of interest to a bunch of teen Boy Scouts. Carissa, you're brave. Okay, so you could join a ranger-led tour that they already lead. I don't know that that's really an option to like get a ranger to take you on a special tour. I've never done that, and I've never heard of anybody doing that. But you know, they do them almost daily. They'll have a ranger guided hike somewhere, which you could join, or just like pick a trail and let those boys go. Get some energy out of them. Okay, John, okay, more Boy Scouts. We're taking a troop of 60 Boy Scouts to Yellowstone this summer. Most have never experienced this magical place. What is your recommendations for sightseeing in larger groups? I would say, I don't know if you are driving like a bus or if you're going to be in separate cars, but I think like parking for all of, you know, a group that large is going to be a challenge. So I would just say like try to get there early in the morning, and maybe like just stick to a couple sections of the park. Like if you go to Old Faithful, there's so much to do right around there. You know, you could watch Old Faithful, but then you can go walk Geyser Hill, you can go out to Morning Glory. Like there's stuff you can do right there without having to move your cars. So that you might find that to be easier. I mean, Canyon Village, you could go like out to Artist Point and see that, and then you could walk along the rim to go down to Uncle Tom's and stuff like that. I mean, it just depends on how far you want to make them hike and stuff. But if you're in like a big bus or something like that, or as it gets later in the day, it's going to be harder to find parking for a group of that size. So I just kind of try to segment it by region to try to stay in the same spot. Okay, we're down to the final few questions. These are kind of just like miscellaneous questions. This is from Kayla. How do I go about getting free admission for 4th graders? Yeah, so if you haven't heard of this program, if you have a 4th grader, you can get a free National Parks Pass for the year to go visit as many parks as you want. So they have a whole system set up. You just go to everykidinapark.gov and fill it out, have your 4th grader with you, and there's like a little activity you have to do, and then you get a paper and you take it to the park and trade the paper for the pass. So it's a really cool program, and hopefully it's getting more families out into the parks. So let's see, Edward, can my wife and I meet you? Yes, yes. I would like to, like I said, I really would like to do more meetups. I think we were planning on doing more this year as we've been traveling around the parks, but like, it's just been hard with the kids, you know. It's like our schedule's kind of weird, and also we like never know where we're gonna be. It's like, oh, we really had more to do here, so we'll stay for an extra week, or oh, the weather's really super crappy, I guess we'll move on, you know. So it hasn't been as easy to plan get-togethers as I was hoping it would be. And this summer, I haven't told anybody this, but this summer we're actually going up to Canada. So we're gonna hit like the mountains and the Rocky Mountain parks up in Canada. So if any of you are going to be up there, maybe we could make something work. But like I said earlier, I actually really want to start doing like group camping trips in the parks. So yeah, Christelle, we got to meet. Yeah, she came to my one and only meetup that I've ever done in Great Smoky Mountains. That was really fun. I need to do more of those, because then it's fun to see your comments and stuff, because I'm like, oh hey, I met you. Yeah, and you usually get like free stickers and stuff, so I'll try to do more of those. I really do want to. But if you'd be interested in a group camping trip, you know, where I say, hey, we're going to be in Yellowstone from this date to this day, let me know if you're going to be in the area, and I'll give you like a year in advance so you could plan it if you wanted to. Let me know. Let me know if that's something you might be interested in. And if enough people are interested, then maybe I'll make it happen sooner than later. So, okay. JC, is Yellowstone sitting on top of a volcanic field? Any scientific estimates about a major eruption? Yes, Yellowstone is a volcano. So it's very active and it's moving, it's changing all the time. Like, it's just crazy. You see all the steam vents and bubbling mud and stuff like that. So yeah, it's considered a super volcano because of the amount of lava that previous eruptions had. So it's very dynamic and exciting place. As far as the major eruption, a next major eruption, okay, this is in the news all the time. Like, they're like, oh yeah, Yellowstone's gonna explode, and people, I've gotten questions, like, people are like, is it safe to go there? It's safe. Yeah, they've got so many, obviously, like, you know, you can't know everything, but they've got so many instruments and stuff hooked up to those geysers and things like that, monitoring the activity there. So I think if something big is going to happen, we'll probably know beforehand. But current estimates right now, I think, are out like, oh yeah, maybe something will happen, you know, in 200 years or 500 years or whatever. But I wouldn't worry about it. It's a fun place. It's fun to see everything bubbling and steaming. So, okay. Okay, and this is the last question, unless I might have missed some. This is from Al. Hi, Al. I'd like to know about your husband. Does he work? How long have you been together? Does he fish? Yeah, he works. He doesn't fish. We've been together for 7 years. He's great. He does a lot of work behind the scenes. So if you like follow us on Pinterest or anything, he does all that. He edits the photos that you see on the blog. He hikes a lot with the kids while I'm taking photos. Like, he's the steady one in the relationship that makes it all happen behind the scenes. So, yeah. He's really funny, and he's a lot more fun and like exciting than I am. I'm like we have to have a plan, we have to get this done, like I like things to be organized. I'm very type A, and he's just like, oh, it's all for the sake of fun, let's just, you know, go and do whatever we want. So he is, and he's a great storyteller, so we're trying to think of ways that we can get him more involved so that you can get to know him, because he's a lot of fun. You'll like him. So yeah, I think that's all. I don't see anything else. Okay. Well, thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it. If you liked it, let me know, and let me know if there's any other parks you'd like me to do one of these sessions for. If you give me your input. I had one lady ask for the Utah parks, which I think probably maybe I will do next. But let me know when your vacations are. Let me know if you have any further questions about Yellowstone, and I'd be happy to answer them. You can also email me, ash@dirtinmyshoes.com. I stay up on those pretty good. Sometimes I have way too many to keep track of, but I think I answer everybody back. So if you have a question, let me know. If you want to get an itinerary to make your trip easier, you can find them dirtinmyshoes.com. Click on the Get Your Itinerary and choose Yellowstone, and I have Grand Teton on there as well, and Glacier if you plan on doing that as well. So anyway, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate your time, and just stay in touch. Have fun in Yellowstone. Bye.